the trunk back there in the box is actually the lowering springs that I got from my Mustang. They're from the Steeda brand. Steeda brand. They are definitely the most aggressive lowering spring that I could find on the internet for purchase. So it does a 2-inch drop all the way around. Most springs that I've seen did like a 1.5 in the front and a 1.3 in the rear. Definitely the lowest, most aggressive stance lowering spring that I could find. Be pairing that also with some 25mm spacers all around in the front and in the back. It'll flush it out with the fender. Give it a really nice, low and aggressive look once the spring is installed. Today we're just doing the springs because the spacers didn't come in the mail yet. Finished this in under 4 hours. We did install springs before, lowering springs on my Ford Fiesta when I had that, and that definitely took us like a good 6 to 7 hours. And it took us that long because it was our first time working with suspension, and there was a lot of like nuts and bolts that were like hidden behind things or holding things in, and we had no idea it was holding things in. And there's a lot of troubleshooting back and forth, trying to figure out what gets this loose, what gets that loose. They're gonna roast us in the comments about something we're doing wrong with all of these things. And like, oh, why'd you take the shirt off like that? You didn't have to take it off like that. As long as we don't tear anything up in the process and we complete the job, I won't be mad. Alright, so working on the rear one right now. Had to use the Allen key and 3/4 to get this bolt off. We didn't look at a video on how to do this, so we're assuming you gotta take all these bolts out, and then once these bolts are out, it decompresses the spring, and then you can put the other one in and put the cap on top.
It was in here like this, like in here.
Yeah.
And all we did was put this here and had a vice grip right here and just undid the nut.
Okay, and that's how you get that arm loose right there. And then up here we just impact it. You got 1, 2, 3 screws on each side. And then as far as moving the strut, you just gotta unplug the ABS line and take these big bolts out. And these big bolts come out, this should drop straight down. All right, so it's been like an hour and a half, 2 hours almost. Struts were a complete pain. There was 2 bolts holding these in. They're double-sided. One side was threaded, the other one was just basically like a hammer in. Brute force to get that damn bolt out. So we literally spent like an hour just trying to get the 4 nuts out on both sides of the front. Now we're putting the spring compressor on there. You can rent these from any car part store, AutoZone, O'Reilly's, whatever you got. They usually just mount on. We're trying to find the mounting points now, but once these are mounted, you basically are just gonna impact it and put pressure on the spring. It's gonna compress it, and then we can pull the spring off and put the new ones on. Top of the mook, big hell keys. Top of the mook. A quick update. So these are the Steeda springs, and those are on the front struts. Those are the OEM springs right there. Using spring compressors to get them off. If you guys don't know how to set those up, you can look a video up on it. And that compresses the spring, and then you can pull the old one off, put the new one on. This bit here actually has to come off as well in order to take the old spring off. So take that off and then do it in reverse basically to put the new one on. Reinstall the springs here, obviously. Once the springs are back on, have to put the brakes back on. You got to reconnect everything. Then the wheels should go back on. We have yet to figure out how to do this yet. I didn't look at the back too much yet, but from what I'm expecting, it should be simple. There's no strut in the rear, obviously, so essentially what I'm thinking is this part should decompress the spring, and spring should pull out, and then we just put the new ones in. So I'll get back to you guys once we get that going.
Towards it? No?
Let me give a little update.
Down?
As y'all can see, sun is down.
Sun is down.
Freezing cold.
Freezing cold.
Yeah. All right. Now basically, that bolt on the right-hand side excites like. So yeah, that big bolt on the right-hand passenger side and the rear was extremely crooked, and because of that, we couldn't impact it, we couldn't torque it. It just wasn't going in any further, so we had to take off the left side and drop down the right side of the suspension And then we had to raise it using 2 jacks. And when we raised it, it leveled it out and we were able to screw them in. And right now we're just trying to tighten this left side. The right side is good to go already. And once we tighten that, we can put the wheel back on the right side. And then we can actually drop it and do a review, show you guys what the Steeda springs look like on the S550. So yeah, we'll get back to you when it's nighttime, because that's how this is going right now. All right, this is it on the Steeda. These aren't settled yet, obviously, but it's just like 3 fingers right now. I'm expecting it to go down to 2, but there's hella camber on the back right now. The back is just 2 fingers. Car is definitely lower. Car is lower, springs aren't completely settled yet. Also don't have the spacers on. Hopefully putting the spacers on tomorrow and you guys will see that. But that's that. It's been like 2 months since I did the spring install. And I gotta say, like, I absolutely love the way everything came out. It's about not even, but almost 2 fingers. Is barely a finger, so it definitely came out the way we expected. And you guys can see that it does have a little poke in the back, not too much, but the 25mm spacers definitely flushed it with the fender, because there's like no chassis gap. And I know the car is dirty, go pay attention to that. It's been raining like every single day out here, but yeah, installed them like two months ago, and this is how it came out.